Are all of you, generic question, are you getting less resistance when you start talking about wind and the windmills? I know they cause cancer. That's a bad joke. I shouldn't kid about that. I shouldn't have kidded. But all kidding aside, I mean, people, I mean, what kind of resistance do you have to, if you're using wind?
I can speak to the ARC in Michigan. So we've done a lot of wind in Michigan. We have a pretty good wind regime there. It is what Nick said, that if you get in a community that's highly mixed, where some benefit and some don't, you'll get resistance. If you're in a community that's more rural, where it becomes part of their economy, their jobs, their income, the reception is quite high. We are actually at a transition point in Michigan where solar has now crossed over and is highly competitive with wind. So I think after a long period of investment in wind, we're now going to see our largest scale investments in solar, and the reception to solar has been very high. It's a great addition to the tax base, billions of dollars of construction that plays out, and then the permanent jobs that follow. So we expect that to be a well-received renewable resource in the state.
I spent a fair amount of time prior to the campaigning, and since then, with some of the really entrepreneurial geniuses out in Silicon Valley. And what they're now talking about, and you all know, and I wonder how you view it, is the ability to store the energy when the wind's not blowing and when the sun's not shining. I was shown, for example, you could have, let's say you're powered even it could be geothermal for that matter, but you have a facility, it looks like, to me, it looked like a platform about this wide and about that thick that's in your basement. And it stores energy when the wind's not blowing and when the sun's not shining. Now, and I know you're not making those, but how has that increased the receptiveness of the idea of wind and solar or geothermal? Yes.
You know, I can respond, Mr. President. Again, thank you for having us join. But we see storage as an incredibly important part of the equation going forward, not only in people's homes, but frankly on our system.
Yes.
In order to strengthen it and make it capable of taking on more resiliency. So as I look at the number of megawatts of renewables we'll add, there's a comparable number of storage megawatts we will also add over the next decades. And the tax credits that you have included would be an important part of lowering costs. And the infrastructure bill under the Department of Energy has a lot of investment in the R&D necessary to advance that battery storage. So we think there's great potential for this.
I asked the question for a selfish reason, because when I said this is going to generate jobs well beyond your site, and so there are going to be people manufacturing those battery storage facilities. This has such a ripple effect that, God willing, and what's going to happen is, I predict, right now, in some cases, China's ahead of us, but I think we're going to end up having a significant export market as well. That's going to create thousands of good-paying jobs here in the United States. It's going to be in our interest to have this, move around the world. But, I hope that you all are going to look back on this 10 years from now and say, boy, that time we didn't have any dinner at that dining room table. Still worked. But I want to thank you all very, very much.
So, Mr. President, we're going to have to let you go here.
Turn it over to you.
Yeah. So we're going to turn to the next